Good evening. This is Tim Markle. I am part of the Education Committee for the Autism Society of South Central Wisconsin. I'm also the director of the Southern Regional Center for Children and Youth with Special Health Care Needs. This is the first in our three-part series on schooling from home, as school is top of everybody's mind. It's in August and we're getting ready to head back to school and everybody's so excited and no one is really sure what it's going to look like. Except there are some kids who this is nothing new to be looking at schooling from home. One of those is a group of kids that are used to virtual school. So tonight, we want to learn a little bit more about what is this virtual school option? What does it look like? How does special education work? Then also hear from a parent about how it works for them. I just want to remind you that we are not professionals in the sense of we are not giving educational advice. We're not going to tell you what's best for your kid. We're just here to talk about virtual school and let you know what this option is. So I'd like to start by letting people introduce themselves. Excited tonight to introduce Gina. Gina, if you'd like to just give a short introduction.
Hi, I'm Gina Maychek. I'm married. We have 3 children. One is 11 and on the spectrum, and we have been doing virtual schooling for 3 years.
Excellent. We'll hear from Gina in a little while. Fantastic. Linnea, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Linnea Bertram. I'm a speech language pathologist by trade, but I also have a son on the autism spectrum who's going to be going into 6th grade. And I have 2 other kiddos as well. And I'm also on the education committee and on the board of directors for the Autism Society.
Fantastic. Thanks for being here. Linnea is here to make sure that I don't screw up anything too badly. So I'm really glad that she's here. Actually, I do. I enjoy everybody on the education committee. It's fun and we don't do enough stuff, but we're working on it. We're working on it, folks. Sam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Samantha Penry. I'm the Director of Special Education for the Rural Virtual Academy. This is my 5th year with them. My 4th year as the director, I started out as a school psychologist with them. And I have 3 kids, and I don't have any children on the autism spectrum, but I do have one student with an intellectual disability who is medically fragile, and we have done RVA with him for the last 2 years. So.
It's good, Sam. You can talk from both perspectives then. Feel free to put on that parent hat when you want to. Always welcome. And Amanda, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my name is Amanda Medke. I'm the lead special education teacher with Wisconsin Virtual Academy. This is my 5th year at WEVA. I have served as a special ed teacher and in my current role, and then previous to this, I did teach for 5 years in a brick and mortar setting. So,
thank you. I'm glad that you're all here, and I do encourage this as a discussion. So please feel free to jump on in, and if you don't feel that the question has been answered adequately, please feel free to say, wait, Tim. And don't let us move on until we have the answers that you think we deserve. I'd like to start off, though, with Gina and just give Gina an opportunity to tell us a little bit about your story. Did you try traditional schooling before? And what was it that drew you to virtual schooling, and how's that experience been?
Well, we did start with traditional schooling with our son. Started off with 4K, had behavioral issues starting in 4K, hiding under tables, not wanting to do group time. In between 4K and kindergarten, we had testing done for autism, and at that point in time, they said he was not on the spectrum. So they diagnosed him with dyspraxia and anxiety. We did a lot of OT and working with speech for him, and nothing really changed his behavior. had quite a few struggles from kindergarten through 2nd grade because of behaviors. He would hide in class. He wouldn't want to get on the school bus. His older sister would have to hold him on the bus because that was the only way he felt safe. So in 2nd grade, we asked for a second opinion. And that's when he went to the Wiseman Center. Takes so long for a referral, he didn't get down there until June, so after his 2nd grade year. And at that time, he did get the formal diagnosis of autism. And in order to, so he was 8 years old, and was recommended that he started ABA therapy, which you really can't get a lot of hours in if you go to traditional schooling. So we started off with Caravel in-home therapy for him, and the recommendation was to move to homeschooling. I was very fortunate that the special education teacher that he had directed us to RVA. She helped us set everything up, and that's when our journey really began, was when he was in 3rd grade. So far,
that's a lot in there, Gina.
Yeah.
That's only up to 3rd grade, and that is quite a journey already that you guys have experienced. So what grade is he in now?
He's going to be in 6th grade this fall. The benefit I feel of him being an RVA is it's tailored to him. So where he is for his math, that's the type of curriculum we work on for him. Where he needs help with reading, that's what we do for him. Because it's so specialized, we can work through to make it be a program that he is going to learn with and respond to, versus in the traditional setting, it was, this is our curriculum, and this is what we're working on, and there isn't a different time frame. You have, this is the lesson plan, and this is what we need to get done, and we can review things with him for several days if we need to. We can take our time if we need to. If we can move forward with things, we can do that. And because of having that adjustability, makes for less behaviors with him, because we don't, if it's something that he feels like he knows 100% and we don't need to review it, okay, we know that you know that, and then we can move on. So it's helped a lot, and having reinforcement from Letha with meeting with him once a week. If it was, Jack, for this week, this is what I want, really want you to work on. Then if he would meet that goal the following week when they would meet, maybe it'd be a fun little video, or something just as a reinforcer for him for doing good work. So even though he's not in school, he has a really good bond with his teacher, and that's so important.
No matter what kind of schooling you do, that relationship with the child and the teacher and the family can really drive the educational success. And that's one of the reasons why we talk to families all the time about find somebody at school that you can get in a relationship with, that you can communicate with, that you can talk with. So it sounds like they've done a really good job of opening up that relationship with you, Gina.
Yes, they have.
Thank you. Don't go away. We'll come back. Would like to go ahead and talk a little bit with Amanda and Sam. So I think a lot of people are very familiar with the way that special education works in our public school system. Okay, not to say the virtual schools are not part of our public school system, because some of them are. But we're used to this. Go in, have an IEP meeting, have testing, have an IEP meeting, you go to school, you go to some classes, sometimes you get pulled out of classes, maybe you have some therapies. There's this layer of special education that's placed on the kids in the schools. And that seems to work well at the schools, but everybody's there. You have your speech therapist is in the building, your OT is in the building, hopefully, your nurse. So it's all taken care of right there. With virtual schooling, none of those people are in the same place. The students aren't even in the same place. So which one would like to explain a little bit how special education services get delivered through a virtual school? And yes, if I was really good at what I did, I would have had this figured out who was going to speak first. Amanda, you seem to be
That's
first on the
okay.
buzzer. So Amanda, you get to go
Sure, I
first.
can tell you a little bit. So I would say we do it all in one sentence. We have co-teaching virtually, where our special ed teachers will go into the general ed classroom virtually to support students. We have small groups, which would be considered kind of like that pull-out model in a traditional school. We offer OT, specially designed physical ed. We offer speech and language, physical therapy. There hasn't been something we haven't been able to offer. And even in some cases, pre-COVID, of course, we offered some of those services face-to-face for those students who really needed that in order to access their education. So I would say we go from one end to the other as far as the things that we can offer to ensure that we're meeting student needs. We just do it virtually.
Wow. Sam, is that roughly the same for Rural Virtual Academy as well?
Yeah, I would say we don't do a lot with necessarily small grouping. We have a lot of clubs and a lot of field trips. After COVID, we started doing virtual field trips. And like our clubs that we offer are for all students, but we do have things like Zones of Regulation Club and things like that where we do a social emotional curriculum and we target certain students that we're wanting to participate. It's not mandatory, but anybody can join. And so it's definitely for regular ed and special ed, but we do, you know, put a bug in some parents' ears. Like, I think this one might really benefit your student. And so we try to offer a lot of different opportunities that way. But yes, I would say our special education services are very much what Amanda outlined. We don't do as much small group, I would say, and we don't offer a lot of face-to-face other than virtually. But we do meet individually with all of our special ed students, and then grades 6 through 12 all have if they're in live instruction courses with our regular education teachers, they all also have a resource time, a half an hour daily that they log into with a special education teacher and then all their same age peers. So that way they can talk about what's been going on in all of their classes and kind of get them caught up and get them on track, very much like a resource room would be in a brick and mortar setting. And yeah, we added on DHH and VI services, so deaf, hard of hearing and vision impaired services this last year. We have OT, PT, speech, all of those services, and we definitely adapt for all of them. But I would say especially the related services are pretty much minute to minute what they would be in a brick and mortar setting.
Fantastic. And for those that can't see, Amanda is shaking her head along with Sam and going, yep, that is absolutely true for WEVA as well. So now I'm curious, you guys, and Gina, you can feel free to chime in on this as well. I know one of the things that people would say about virtual schools is that you lose that social aspect. But I heard a little bit about field trips, virtual field trips, small groups. How do you help the kids? Because part of learning is learning how to get along with other people. How do virtual schools, especially our special education students, sometimes are used to being isolated and not allowed to interact with students? How do you guys help the special ed students interact with other students?
Yeah, I would say that especially when it comes to field trips, our special education teachers are really good about, if there's field trips and things coming up, saying who's going to this field trip, because they want to make a face-to-face contact with those students. They want to be there. Our speech and language pathologist, you know, wants to meet the kids that she's working with at those field trips and help them socialize with the other kids who are there, you know, and help them to develop those relationships and those bonds. So we absolutely do that. You know, the other thing that we have is a Facebook page that's for just our parents. And our parents are really great about reaching out and saying, hey, I live in Colby. I have 3 kids. One's in this grade, one's in this grade. Anybody else in the area doing RVA with their students, or, you know of somebody who would like to get together who lives, you know, close. And parents are really good that way. We've had students before who have similar disability areas, who are in similar age groups, and parents have said to the teachers, like, I'd really like to just meet online, maybe with some other kids and things like that. So we were able to set some things up for some families who wanted some interactions like that. And, you know, it's interesting talking to parents who are wanting the virtual option now after experiencing COVID. You know, some are like, my student who is on the spectrum did really, really well with the virtual schooling. There was no distractions. They were able to make so much more progress in all of these areas. They didn't have the anxiety. They didn't have the social stress. And there were just so many more positives, but you know, they are nervous because they're losing that social interaction piece that they also know is really important too. So I think that it was very eye-opening. A lot of times before COVID, you would get phone calls from parents who were interested in the school, and they had no idea if it was going to be a positive or a negative thing. And parents really know now, you know, if it's going to fit them or not fit them after last spring's experience.
Yeah, that's families have had a little taste of what virtual school may look like, and you know, how is their kid going to react to a face on a screen instead of in a room. And that's really good information to have. Amanda, I won't forget about you, but Gina, how you handled the social aspect of school with using virtual?
Well, with Jack, he does not do very well socially.
Yeah,
That is,
similar to my son Gina. Is social was
yeah.
not his high point in school. It was a struggle.
Right. It was anxiety provoking. You know, anytime he felt he would be put on the spot or in a group, or, oh, we have to do a concert, and, you know, all those types of things would cause him a lot of stress. As far as with him when he started RVA, because he did 30 some hours a week of ABA therapy in the home, we didn't necessarily do a lot of field trips. But what we would do is ones that we knew would spark his interest. You know, when they would have any of them where it was, you know, roller skating or anything that he would like, we definitely went to those. And he, surprisingly, he did very well at those. We could take his brother with, so we would pull his brother out of traditional school, take him with on those field trips. And because his brother is Mr. Social, they would interact with other kids, and it would be, I mean, it was great. And I mean, now we go camping and Jack will meet other kids at the campsites, and you wouldn't even be able to tell that several years ago he wouldn't even talk to somebody that he didn't know. So I think part of it is maturity. Part of it is just promoting the social aspect of it, and him having support, you know, and by support, not only with family and, you know, us helping guide him on how do you interact with people. Those have also been programs that have been worked with through ABA therapy and with RVA, you know, so he's had a lot of education on how you should behave socially, which has helped tremendously.
Thank you, Gina. Amanda, anything you'd like to add about the social aspect? How does WEVA help the students interact?
Yeah, I would say as a teacher, you know, that's one of the fun parts in being in the classroom in a brick and mortar setting, right? Getting that face-to-face and interaction. And so as I transitioned, that was something that I was worried about. Am I going to still be able to connect with these students? And I was so pleasantly surprised, just kind of that level of connection that I could have and that even the students could have with each other, just checking in and talking about and getting to know each other in our small groups or within their classes. And a lot of times our teachers host fun things like a fun Friday where it's just like a fun kind of gathering virtual. In pre-COVID, we did a lot of outings. So we've services students all over the state of Wisconsin, and we also have teachers all over the state of Wisconsin. And so usually pre-COVID, we were able to have like a statewide school picnic. And so we would all go to a location near us. And so that was really fun. We got to see students maybe that we didn't work with. The students got to know people from their area. So that was a great opportunity to connect. We also have a school called DCA at our high school level, which is for students who want like a career path. And so with our high school students within that program, we're able to kind of compete in some of those career specific and participate in some of those career specific like IT programs and stuff like that, and touring some of those campuses that tailor to that career focus for those students. And even some of our special ed students, as part of their transition planning, would go and tour, meet the special ed teacher at such and such college and kind of go on that tour with them. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities to interact and to get to know virtually as well as kind of in that face-to-face setting. It's really nice.
Wow, thank you so much. Linnea, you had the opportunity to ask a question before we got on the air, so to speak, before we started to record. Would you mind going ahead and ask, because I think it was an important question, because parents are getting all sorts of different terms thrown at them this year that we've never heard with schooling before. And you brought up one of those terms. So could you feel free to ask that question? That just, if somebody could explain it a little bit better than I can,
Sure.
and then go from there. Thanks, Linnea.
Yeah, so some of the big buzzwords right now are synchronous and asynchronous. So I'm just curious how the virtual academies handle that, and do they do both, and how does it work?
So asynchronous is that work that's done offline, kind of on your own time, where synchronous is that real-time interaction, like what we're doing here in this Zoom meeting. And so as far as WEVA, we do offer both. Students have a set schedule where they are told what kind of their asynchronous work is for that day, and then also what live classes that they need to log in for each day. And so it will vary for like our students at the K2 level. They're not going to be logging in for that synchronous time as frequently as maybe our students at the middle and high school level, but they will kind of have that set schedule to follow that intertwines and connects both of those pieces, similar to what you would have in a traditional classroom where the teacher would teach and give them time to do some independent work. It just looks a little different virtually.
Yeah, and I completely agree with what Amanda said. It looks very similar in the RVA as well. There is a combination of both the synchronous and asynchronous, and at the elementary level, specifically in the RVA, we typically give parents a choice of how much synchronous versus asynchronous learning that they want. We do offer live instruction courses, but oftentimes parents find it difficult to make that many transitions with small children, and they'd rather have some book curriculums that they're supported with at home, and not have a constant logging in, logging out type routine. So we kind of work with the parents and the students where they're at and where they feel their children would be the most successful.
I guess I want to land there for just a couple of moments here, because what I'm hearing from Gina, Amanda, and Sam, and thanks for the question, Linnea, is this idea of individualization with virtual schooling. Is there just, I just keep thinking about some of what Gina had said about how it seems like things are planned for her kid and for her son. And what you're saying, Sam, is that parents have this option, log in or don't log in, or log in for 2 hours. We'll support you even when you're not logging in. And I've heard similar stuff from Amanda. So how do you do that? I mean, I think every teacher that I've ever met would love to have an individualized program for each student. How does virtual school enable that to happen? And I know I didn't prepare anybody for that question, and I think it's a pretty big question. So I'm going to just chill for like 5 seconds to give you time to think. But how does virtual school work with that? And Gina, you can feel free to, chime in with your experience as well with Jake. But who would like to tackle that one first?
I can. So WEVA is part of what's called, we're considered a K-12 powered school. So K-12 is a national company. They've been around for 20 years within the virtual school, like that's their niche. So for us, like so many schools, because of COVID, are trying to figure out what does virtual look like. Our teachers are trained, right? They go through this training process, learn how to teach virtually, how to create engaging lessons online, how to interact with students and make those connections. And then we have that support of having this evidence-based curriculum to teach from. And so I think because we are designed innately to do schooling in a virtual setting, I think that's what makes it so much easier. Where when I think about my friends who are teachers in brick and mortar setting, it's such a mind shift for them, and they just don't have the resources that I do working for a virtual school. So I think that is a huge benefit for us, being that this was our life and what we did prior to COVID.
Yeah, I agree. And the Rural Virtual Academy started off with, basically 6 very rural schools kind of coming together and saying, we have some students whose needs are not being met, and how can we meet the needs of these students? And now we have 40 school districts that are partners with us, plus we take open enrolled students all over the state of Wisconsin. And we very much, take pride in the fact that, sometimes students come to us and it's really their last educational opportunity, and we want to be able to fit those needs for those students. And so it's innate. Since we began, we were kind of trying to meet the needs of those students who didn't necessarily fit the brick and mortar model, and we wanted to be able to individualize for them and to help them be successful and to overcome those odds and graduate and be able to feel successful within a school. And so I think that it just evolves so easily for us. The other thing, I guess, advantage that we have over the brick and mortar school, and I have to give the brick and mortar school props, right? Like WEVA, RVA, we've been doing this for years. And, overnight, basically last spring, brick and mortar schools had to figure it out very quickly. And I'm really impressed with what some of them were able to pull together in that amount of time, and utilizing their resources, and the teachers who really took the bull by the horns and, were doing a great job during that time, because it could not have been easy for any of them to do that. Students who come to our schools, choose our schools, and oftentimes they have parental support at home, and not every parent, not every family has that luxury. And we really try to work with those families who say, I'm going to work during the day, but we're going to do school at night, or I'm going to work 3 days a week, and we're going to do school 2 days during the week and then on the weekends, and we're going to make it work. And we try to make it work for those families. And I think brick and mortar schools were trying to do that as well during COVID, just because of the unique nature of how we had to all adapt.
Yeah. Gina, how do you feel they've done in getting to know your family and getting to know your child as a learner?
I think it's been It's been great. I mean, so when we first started, he had to take placement tests, to find out where he was academically, for reading and math. And then not a long interview process, but I talked to Letha, who ended up being his teacher, on how does Jack best learn? What would work best for Jack? Different curriculum options were sent to me, and got to review them and look at them, and how is this going to help him? And you know what? We've had to change them several times, because you originally thought this was going to be the right path for him. And after working with it, he would have a lot of behaviors, a lot of frustration. It was not the right curriculum for him. It was not going to help him learn the best. So then it was, okay, we need to go back to square one, and we need to look and see what there is. And again, options would be proposed to me, and these are what we have for him, and let's give this a try. And it has always been, what program can we put Jack with that's going to make him successful? And he's successful with RVA, whereas when he was in traditional schooling, he was not. So my son gets great report cards, and he's very proud of the work that he does, and it's because it's been tailored to him, and it's absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. I've had the chance to ask a number of different questions of everybody. I am curious whether you guys have any questions for each other, or anything that you would like to bring up that maybe I haven't talked about. Maybe there's that one thing that you're just like, oh, I got to say this every time or I get fired. Or there's this one thing, Gina, that you're just like, this is what I want every parent to know. Or Linnea, now that you've heard from these people, you might have questions as well for virtual schooling or for Gina. So any questions for each other, or anything that we haven't talked about that you want to talk about?
I would just like to ask, what are some of the things that you would suggest parents do or look out for, or like some tips and tricks for virtual schooling, if you have any?
Like to help to be most successful in virtual schooling?
Yes, because we're moving into, 2 of our kids are going to do virtual at least the first semester, and it went okay the first time around, but now we're moving into that synchronous, asynchronous, and actually having face-to-face. So I was just
So maybe what have you learned from doing virtual schooling that's going to help these parents that are back to this online schooling for the first time, or depending on how the spring experiment went, are now facing this online again? Anything that you can tell parents that are entering into that sort of environment that you guys have maybe picked up or learned? Say yes, please, and come up with an example. Thanks.
I guess for us, the biggest thing is, when we switched from traditional school to being at home, was to still be consistent, and to still have expectations that this is what needs to be done. It was almost looked at first by Jack that he didn't have to do anything because he was at home. And to get him to understand that you still have to be accountable, and you still have to do the schoolwork, and I still expect this from you, can be very challenging. You have that parent role, and then you have that teacher role, and you have to be able to be willing. I mean, I'm not saying it was all roses and we didn't have any arguments. We did, but having that consistency and that expectation for him has helped him grow, and now he knows what's expected. When I say to him, okay, it's time to do math, he will sit down and he will do his work, because he knows that's what's expected. That's
excellent. So making sure you still have those expectations of the kiddos. Sam, Amanda, Sam?
Yeah, I think, yeah, setting that daily schedule, having those expectations, I agree completely with Gina. And that's why she is a great home mentor. You know, and I would say also, you know, parents have to give themselves a little bit of grace, and they have to understand that, you know, there's mom time and there's school time. And you have to be able to separate the two, right? We have parents who go into it and they get so upset and feel like if they didn't get through everything they needed to get through in a day, that they need to spend, you know, hours in the evening when they're both burnt out just trying to get through. And don't do that. Don't ever do that. Just because it's not worth it. You know, every day is going to be different, and you try your best every day, but, you know, kind of set those boundaries as well. You know, we're done with school for today and we're going to put it away, and tomorrow's going to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Amanda, anything you'd like to add on that?
I would say, I think, you know, communication, asking, talking to, you know, we're all here for the same reason. And so just, you know, making sure that your voice is heard, and don't be afraid to have your voice be heard, to kind of advocate for what you see on your end. And as a parent who had 2 children home with me because of COVID and trying to work from home, which was new for me, I would say that having expectations is key, but then also giving yourself a little bit of grace. If your kids, you know, are eating their pancakes while they're watching their first lesson because they slept in a little bit, or maybe they're in their PJs or whatever the case is, it's okay. It's not going to be, you know, this, you know, whatever image you have in your head, it could be that, but it doesn't have to be that every day. And so I think just making sure that you give yourself, you know, like Sam said, a little bit of that grace and just some flexibility in kind of what your expectations are going into it, and just do what's best to work for your family.
Excellent words of advice, everyone. I love it. Any other questions, comments, statements, queries?
I do. I just want to say, Gina, I think it's awesome to hear the voice of a parent, and to hear that you guys found success. I get to hear that too with some of our families, and it's really rewarding to hear that you were able to find that, and that, you know, that there is a place for students to be successful who maybe couldn't find it in that traditional manner. And being a virtual school, we don't always get to connect with other virtual schools. So it was really great to even hear, Sam, from you, and that you guys, and we have a lot in common. So it was really great to even just connect on that level. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Anybody else have final words before we close this out? Or final questions? We don't need to close it out. I've enjoyed talking to y'all. Well, as I told everyone before the call, is my son, who's now 22, had the opportunity to experience private school, public school, homeschooling, as well as virtual schooling. And I could write books on the mistakes that I made in private schooling, public schooling, homeschooling, and online schooling. And virtual schooling. It's not the system. You're not going to be perfect in any system. And that's why I love the fact that you all talked about giving yourselves grace and knowing your families, communicating with your schools, those are keys no matter what schooling option that parents choose for their kids or what schooling option kids choose. Is communication, relationship, give yourself a break, and have high expectations are important across the board. I'd like to thank you all for coming. I do want to leave with one memory that I never thought would happen. Was my son did virtual school in high school and was very excited when he got to go to a prom, which with his anxiety would probably never had happened at a regular school. But it gave him a chance to meet other kids. He had a great time. I got to go to a coffee shop and listen to some cool music and then pick him back up. So it worked out well for all of us. So thank you all for being here. Hopefully what we've said will maybe help other parents along the line understand a little bit more about what this virtual schooling is. So on behalf of the Autism Society of South Central Wisconsin and the Southern Regional Center for Children and Youth with Special Healthcare Needs, I thank you all for being here. And you can feel free to just hang on for 1 second. I'm just going to stop the recording and then we could just talk and I can tell you how I really feel. Thanks a lot for listening.